Making a video. A couple of subjects. Try to do the one that most people don't like much in the second half. A little bit of physics maybe. But we'll see how things go. Might not even get to it. Who knows? First things first. Well, second thing first. Sort of. Anyway, I wanted to do a live room on physics. And then I found out that, I hadn't done a live room in a while, and that Google completely changed the live streaming thing. So, it's playing some kind of game, as of course the Google will do. Apparently they weren't making enough money, so they pretended they didn't have software that made it possible for you to already connect to a room, and that you hadn't already loaded the software, and now require you to load some sort of encoder. And it seems kind of obvious that the encoders that you can get, they're paying the Google to be listed on the list, and so Google's making money basically selling encoding software, right? That's my guess as to the racket, because it is kind of silly that I can get into a room, which is technically the same thing as making the room, but I can't make a room. And the point is that the open source software doesn't run on Windows XP, so I'm not going to buy some junky product for encoding Google videos. Forget that. There's a whole bunch of other shit I don't want to do, like fuck up my computer. But I just don't know. So I was just curious if anybody's got running XP and they've used some encoding software, which encoding software they've used that isn't malicious in some way. Even in this way where they're going to keep trying to get you to buy the product for some reason, the streaming product. Yeah. So anyway, it's just, it's just bullshit, and I'm bullshitting about the bullshit because it's irritating, because it obviously has some other agenda to it. Google writes more software than anybody on earth right now, and clearly they could write encoding software, and the reason why they don't provide it is because they're getting kickback, so to speak, and that's it. There's no other rational reason. Why give it away for free when we can sell somebody else's crap and make money doing it? It's the whole internet. Why index the internet honestly when we can do it dishonestly and sell a bunch of ads? They're worse than Microsoft, and you fuckers still can't figure any of this out. Which is sort of the point of the video, is that you fuckers are such stupid fuckers. So that's the first part of the video. So anyway, if somebody would like to make a room on physics, and it's at some reasonable hour, I will make every effort to attend, and I'll let you know if I can't, and you can do something about it, or reschedule, or it's okay. I mean, I shouldn't be the only person interested in the subject, but I can't make the room. So if you make the room, I'll go to the room, but I can't make the room. Yeah, Google. Anyway. So, okay, so the modern mystic, I'll get to, do the philosophy stuff first. So, speaking of irritating and all that kind of crap, he's made a black and white video, which is kind of nice, stylistic. Yes, I like it. Talking to Star of Sagittarius, who he's obviously a victim of something, and you can't really make fun of victims. Well, you can, but it's not kind or anything. And so if he was a regular gladiator, he would just be, you could just tear him to shreds. Convoluted. I mean, I've kind of called him an idiot savant without much of the savant part. Or the savant is, he's an exceptionally incredible idiot. He does that incredibly well. But anyway, so let's, the pretense of this is now philosophy, you know, gibberish from imbeciles. So anyway, Mystic is using this as some opportunity to say what it is to be a philosopher, and then what it is to be a human being, and ragging on both apparently. The latter deserves it. But anyway, but the philosophy things, it gets a little tricky. Yeah, I'd say there's no good excuse for the 10,000 years it took human beings, well, some human beings, to admit that they're just psychological assholes. And, you know, most philosophers, I guess, don't concede that, but it's out there. I mean, you know, what's his face, what's his name? Snarky guy, but, you know, free will guy, whatever. You know, he's kind of a little down on the human race. But anyway, there's nothing wrong with technically the idea of philosophy. It's just that they've done it badly. There's nothing wrong with the idea of physics, except that they've done it badly. And, yeah. So you just can't blame philosophy for bad philosophers. That's just doing it wrong. You know, you've complained in the past about pigeonholes. I mean, that's just so pigeonholy. But whatever. But this question of what it is to be a human really is so simple, right? I mean, bug with brains. You know, I've used all kinds of bacteria with brains. Yeah, let's just go back to something that has some sort of desire mechanism. And, you know, a sensation reflex. And that's what they are, just reflexes. It's all just reflexes. So there's short-term, immediate reflexes. Me no feel good. And then there's more complex reactions that are reflexes, where you think of me eat ice cream or something, you know, to fix it. I've concluded that a bowl of ice cream will make me happy. It's a bad example because, you know, I haven't eaten ice cream in 15 years, but, well, 10, 12, something, I don't know. Would love a lovely bowl of ice cream, I have to admit. This, you know, little things like that. I mean, the Mystic has mentioned cheese. I declined some cheese on sale. Somebody was going to buy me some cheese because it was on sale. No, I can't have it. It was, you know, I didn't enjoy doing that. But that's the whole point. See, my brain can understand things. And so, anyway, back to the bug with brains, back to the, I used analogies like lizard, ape, oh yeah, actually it always happens, it's just so bizarre. Not a comment for 24 hours, and I'm making a video, some idiot comments. Are you voting for Bernie Sanders? No, I'm not voting for any of these stupid moronic cunts. They're all fucking idiots. Bernie Sanders is an idiot. I'm sorry to say it, but he's a fucking idiot. His plan is absolute nonsense from top to bottom. A bunch of political correct, you know, placate every lunatic on earth. He would have every one of these, whatever they are, Ebola virus people and every fucking flat-headed mutant child born in America so we can all finance it with hundreds of thousands of dollars to keep them all in fucking incubators and shit. I mean, he has no practical fucking sense. I liked him a lot more before he started running for president, because when he starts running for president, he starts to sound like a fucking lunatic. And the other two, well, the other two are psychotic liars. You know, and Donald Trump's a triple psychotic liar. I mean, he's just so absolutely full of motherfucking cunt shit. And if you assholes think it's a good idea to elect a fucking billionaire president of the United States, then you look a lot like the fucking Mexicans you think are a joke. That's what fucking dumb Mexicans do, is elect some rich fucker president. So you've just announced yourself as a third world dickhead when you sit there and have a fucking goddamn open election that's not some kind of Russian horrible yes or no vote, and you can't even figure out to vote no. So, no, I'm not voting for Bernie. He doesn't understand that money doesn't grow on whatever rich people feed or something. He thinks businesses make money. No, the rich people that own them make the money, you dumb cunts. He's as stupid as Pirro, for fuck's sake. Would I elect Pirro president? Not a fucking chance. Because he has not one realistic, logical mechanism in his fucking drunken toboggan. Toboggan? It's like a Mike Bayul moment. Toboggan. Where the fuck did that come from? Anyway, just making a joke about Mike Bayou moment. Anyway, bowl, I guess. It's probably not even permanent saying it right. Somebody will have to correct me. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Everybody just, I'm going to unsub from Ian Crossland too, because he's just left the building again. Fuck. I mean, there's just the number of, I can't subscribe to anybody because everybody's a fucking idiot. So anyway, back to the subject, which is humans are idiots, and not for any good reason. This is not even close to brain surgery. I mean, I could point out how, well, although the families of the dead people in 9/11, it's all very tragic and sad. It's all very tragic and sad every time some people, a little girl is killed, run over by a drunk driver. We don't give them billions of dollars to comfort them. Why, what's the logic in this crap? That these victims are just so much more victim-y. No, same thing. It's even worse, because it's not like we collect taxes and make money off the industry of terrorism. Technically. It's like we have a terrorism bar on every corner for people to drive to get drunk. Clever. Really. I mean, you should say it's okay to have alcohol vans, that would bring booze to people in their homes. Now, that might make some logical sense. Little drunk vans. But bars that people drive to? No, that doesn't make any sense if you don't want dead little kids from drunk driving. No, if you don't want them, then you don't let people drive to the drunkatorium. That's retarded. See, little things like that. Electing a billionaire president of the United States. A lying scum billionaire, by the way. One who has to be one of the dumbest fuckers on earth. He thinks Sarah Palin has a brain cell. You sit there when you start, just, oh God, where am I? What kind of, it's less than a bugs are smarter than humans. And maybe that's the mystic's point. What is a human being? Oh, he's something with enough intelligence to be incredibly confused and nothing else. So he's just a confused bug, because he can't add 2 motherfucking 2 plus 2. Can't do it. Can't accomplish the simple task of identifying anything realistically, in perspective, in context. But that's what his brain is capable of. So anyway, the point is that what distinguishes us from an ant or a minky or a platypus is the extent of our contextual intelligence. We're able to absorb a little more memories, more context, more information, so we get to see what's happening. We can see the trends and the probabilities. We can have knowledge of our death, knowledge of the inevitabilities that are written into the game we're playing, where the other game players, they're stuck in the moment. They're stuck in a bunch of ignorance. They don't know what refraction, diffraction, sminaction, deduction. They can't do any distinguishing. They have to think it's all just magic. Oh, magic there, magic. Look at all the magic everywhere. They can't understand. It's like a guy was showing little bugs, little, video guy. And, little bugs could jump and like fleas or something, and so something comes to get the flea, and the flea jumps, but it jumps so fast the other bug says, "It's magic, it disappeared, I was looking right at it, it's gone." And they'll just have to say it's magic because they can't figure it out. We can figure it out. We understand. Oh, it tricked us. It tried to jump away. See, we can do that kind of stuff. Now, the point is, we have this intelligence thing that can see stuff. But the thing is, is if it's not a little bit smarter than just that, it just schemes for what it wants. It just says, the only needs in the universe are mine. I'm the only thing that exists. Their vision is entirely internal, and their context completely eliminates any idea that there's any other good than them feeling good. There's no problems except their problems. And so that's just scheming. So that just makes it a more dangerous bug. Because now it can scheme, and figure out how to steal the goodies or do this or do that, because it just doesn't give a shit about any kind of bigger picture need problem. Because the only needs it sees are the ones it feels. But if it gets a little tiny bit smarter, a little more context, then it sees, oh, it's a bigger game with a bunch of things equal to me in it. A bunch of feeling things just as much as, just the same thing as 9/11. Little girl killed in 9/11. I don't know if there's any little girls killed in 9/11. Little girl killed in 9/11. Little girl killed by drunk driver. Yeah, little equal sign, same difference. Little kid paralyzed playing pee-wee football. We don't go throwing a bunch of flowers on the shore of the ocean every year. Oh, the paralyzed child. We just don't give a fuck. And we don't give a fuck because people are stupid motherfuckers that can't add 2 plus 2. They can't see the equal sign between 2 equals 2. Can't see it because they're too fucking stupid. So yeah, it's hard to say philosopher, when they can't add 2 plus 2, right? So I sort of get that point. 10,000 years, you still can't add 2 plus 2? Oh, you can't really be a philosopher then. Yeah. Conceptually, I can understand that that really doesn't work because there's no point in having a word for getting the answer right when you can never get an answer right. So that's sort of the description. It's not really complicated, is it? We're biological organisms genetically composed to reproduce. We do this through a complex toolkit that we've been enabled with that allows us to consume resources so we can pop out little babies. Manufacture them through a whole social network of hierarchy and who's got the biggest dick and the biggest balls, blah, 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 blah. Go through all this nonsense to produce this mega fighting machine that goes into the world to survive, and doesn't do it with any kind of rational perspective. But it has the tool of intelligence, so it can see some of the trends, but if it just doesn't have a big enough brain, it won't see that the trends are in a whole game. It's kind of like fields in physics, right? There's the local field and then there's the bigger field, and the bigger field is really the one running the game. And that's sort of the mystic's point. The bigger field is in control, ultimately. But the little fields are the ones that make the big field. So you can't deny the fact that they have to read their script, so to speak. They can't just go to sleep and pretend they're not in the universe. They have to actually go to the World War II and fight the Hitler and all that kind of stuff if the Hitler's going to be defeated. So they have to have conversations. They have to talk about 2 plus 2. They have to talk about logical inconsistencies, the errors, fallacies. They have to do all of those kind of conversations if there's any chance that they're going to reach some point where they can actually start having a rational conversation about actual reality. Yeah, but it's right there to have, is my point. The point is that actual reality is not complicated or mysterious or inaccessible. It's quite accessible. And all it requires is that you have a brain that acknowledges that the game is bigger than you. That there's more things playing the game that are equal to you. That the only need is not your need. That the only happiness is not your happiness. Yes, your comfort does not equal the universe. No, there's lots of other comfort needing happening in the universe. And that if you evade, and that's all you can do. You can't do it any other way than trying to like evade it, because oh well, that means I have a burden and I don't want burdens. Clearly, yes, that's true. Just as I want to eat ice cream and cheese, but I won't because I know it's wrong. You see, you should know that it's wrong for you to obscure your vision when reality shows up and it glaringly points out to you that you're not the only fucking thing in the universe that matters. Alright. But it's not a complex question. What is it to be human? It's a replicating molecule in a silly universe that just makes chemistry. And one of the chemical compounds was this stupid DNA thing, and it goes through this complex process. And so there's all these imbeciles, and they are imbeciles, who just sit there and knee-jerk their way to these idiotic conclusions. Well, it happened once, it'll happen again. It has to happen again. No, none of that. It's a very... life is not what the universe does. The universe does fiery ball. The universe does swirly shit for billions of years, just going around in circles for billions of years. Universe does lots of things, but it doesn't do this a lot, because this isn't probable. It's not likely. Because you have to jump through a bunch of impossibly improbable circumstances to get there. Circumstances just don't happen. Little DNA molecule gets hit by lightning and gets shot into the air and it lands inside of a water bubble, and that creates the first membrane or something. Little silly shit like that happens not just once, but 1,000 times before you even get to something that you might say has a brain. Neurons, only one organism out of zillions of little crawly things acquired a neuron. There's only one form of brain in all life forms. It only happened once, fuckers. And zillions of permutations. So they mixed the ingredients a zillion times, and it only turned into strawberry shortcake once. So anyway, you can't even, the whole imbecile thing with the religion and the God thing, it's all kind of just totally silly. It's just like Piero. I like waves. I like. They just want it to be true. That's all. Just they're riding their little hope wagon, pushing their little wagon down the street. Yeah, you hope. Hope. I hope it's true. It's not. So anyway, in defense of philosophy, I think it is possible for brains to do the minor bit of calculating required to recognize that local doesn't have much to do with how important a feeling is. So something could be feeling thousands of miles away, and it's just important that it not feel bad as you not feel bad. Just as important in the big picture. Same thing. Yes, that you or your family or none of that, your race, no. It has to do with what the brain is doing. And there's lots of brains and lots of organisms. And you have to account for the condition of all of them. So if you're going to say it's unacceptable that 2,000 of our kind got killed by the nasty little Arab crazy fucks, and that we're going to spend $2 trillion getting revenge, you have to analyze that and say, well, isn't that the dumbest fucking thing? Yes, that's just too fucking silly. When you let 2,000 get annihilated, you'll eat them. You'll take a sentient organism, torture it, and eat it. You can't go whining that you need $2 trillion worth of revenge when you're committing a crime much more obscene every single hour of every single day. So all this hypocrisy can't really be called philosophy. It's called stupid as fuck. So that's really the point. And in a sense, the mystic might, in some ways, be trying to through a little bit of insult. Maybe he's trying to up the level a little. But he does it by placating the very kind of retard, star of Sagittarius, I just make up shit, who's not going to get us there. And I think little mystic knows that. But again, more cognitive dissonance, more inability to properly use the plus sign and the equal sign. But that's all it takes. The truth is that close. It's just right there. 2 + 2 kind of shit. We have all the information you need. I mean, jeez, we got it in redundancy on the whole subject of evolution. So we certainly have it in redundancy in the whole idea of psychological reactions. We all know you're not going to play the piano unless you learn how to play the piano. You have to learn things. Right there kind of indicates a little bit of determinism. You just don't wish it and it happens, and you actually have to walk through it and make it happen. Alright, this is a very musical type video. Being patronizing is like that, it's very musical. So, yeah, I think I've said the piece. Just fuck you, stupid motherfucking lying, hypocritical motherfucking cunts, because everything that comes out of your mouth is such a pile of fucking shit. Anyway. So, as an example of a fucktard of obscene proportions. So I'll do a little more on this subject of... See, I would like to just make video exchanges on the subject of physics, where I point out something like the interference pattern seen in the single slit experiment is not visible in the single slit water experiment. So when you do the single slit with light, you get an interference pattern, not just diffraction. You get diffraction plus, you get light plus light equals dark, as the MIT professor would say. Okay, and when you do that same thing with a plain water wave, there is no wave plus wave equals no wave. There's no dead spots like there is with the two-slit experiment and the interference pattern. So in light you have an interference pattern with a single slit. Now, that's not terribly complicated. Yeah, but certain people just can't play along. So anyway, so getting to the point, yeah, so the live room thing, I don't know if it's of much value. So you get this certain specific arguments people made. Some guy PM'd me on the Draft Science YouTube channel, suggesting a conversation. So yes, I'll have a conversation with you, but you'll have to open the room, because I can't open the room. And probably commenting on this video would be the place to let me know that you're planning a room, because I don't really read my messages every day. And I don't really answer my email every day. the website, whatever it is, me staring at the screen of cam, yeah, that works obviously because it has the audio message. But anyway, just whatever. There's got to be somebody interested. We'll see. So anyway, Piro. A spectrum is a range of wavelengths. All I did was say electromagnetic spectrum because that's what they call it. Yes, but it's not a spectrum of wavelengths. It's just as easily described as a spectrum of frequencies. They're photons at a frequency. And you know that. So to say it's wavelengths or nothing would be silly. For me to conclude that it's all about some kind of wave because the word wave is in the word wavelength. We know that we use the word wavelength to describe things that have a frequency that we know are dripping. There will be people, if I have water dripping into a bucket, they'll say that the water has a wavelength. Now, you know it's not a wave, they're drops of water. So let's not pretend, because the word has the word wave in it, that that's what it means. All it really means is that it's time sensitive. It's a frequency. And in a certain amount of time, a certain amount of distance exists. And that's it. But no, gotta play with the words, because that's all you have is a word game. When you ride a wave on a surfboard, does it exist? Does what exist? The surfboard? Yes, it probably exists. Piro actually said in the room, he used a tsunami as an example, and said, "What, you think that's the water from Japan that comes over?" Yes, that's exactly what happens. Yes, a big pile of water is essentially what a wave is a pile of water piled on top of another pile of water. And it has enough momentum to push both piles in going that way. But yes, that's the whole reason why it's higher, is because it's a bigger volume of water that was initiated in Japan. So yes, it's Japanese water, technically. Kind of. Sort of. That's why houses move on it. Yes, water molecules are, some of the water molecules will be just like the Japanese house. It'll be on the end, and it's going to make it all the way to Hawaii. Yes, it'll go all the way from Japan to Hawaii because it's on the end of the wave. Anyway. Is it a thing? Yes, it's a thing. So I don't even know. So you do a video about the two-slit experiment, and this is the response you get. And you're just like, well, what are you, a troll? What the fuck does this have to do with the difference between a waves, like little lines going straight into a slit and then they bulge coming out, which they're calling diffraction, and say an electron in the old TV screens? The electrons moved because you changed a magnetic field. Yeah, they didn't bulge or do any of this nonsense. No, they were diffracted by magnetism. Very different than any kind of wave crap. Same word used, though. That's the problem. See, if you use the same word for two entirely different things, that's called, again, stupid. Physics is stupid because it can't figure out that it shouldn't use the same word to describe different things. Physics can't even figure out that it should be measuring energy with one term, not 7 zillion different scales. Anyway, electron volt, watt, ampere. I mean, it's just such a pile of shit. Well, ampere is more specific, so that's okay. Alright, so the Nicky Tech guy says, you know, blah, 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 blah. Who cares? Alright, Piro, my honest response is that I love waves. So that's how you respond to somebody who's pointing out how the wave theory, based on Young's two-slit experiment, would have been entirely different if Young's experiment was the one-slit experiment. And he pointed out how light is nothing like water waves. But I love waves is how you respond. That's a rational way to have a conversation about physics, is to inject the word love. I don't think so. I had the opposite reaction as Gary. Well, opposite in the sense that my critique was I found it all incomprehensible, which seems a little different than love. I didn't hate waves. I just found the concept incomprehensible. I mean, the physicists aren't saying there's an ether. They're not saying there's a medium. So how do you transmit a wave? Waves are transmitted through mediums, and they're usually mediums that have a thing called elasticity in them. That's why they can wave. It's because what they're really doing is action-reaction in a confined space. The action can't escape, so the reaction happens in the medium because there's no way for it to outgas it. It's not like a rocket where it can just shoot the exhaust into the universe. No, it can only shoot the exhaust into its own little space. And so you could sort of understand if the rocket shooted its exhaust into a confined space, that it would end up running into its own exhaust again. Its own exhaust would fuck up the space it's trying to fly through. Create something called maybe turbulence. But again, this is just too complex. Alright, I had the opposite right. To me, particles don't make sense. So he's saying cannonball shot by cannon, flying through the air, landing somewhere doesn't make sense. Okay, fine. You can't imagine some thing moving at a speed in a frictionless environment. Because that's all that's required here. I love water. Again, the love word twice. In barely 2 sentences. We're again saying love in a conversation about physics. I'd spent and have since spent much time watching wave patterns. Well, gee, watching wave patterns and understanding the dynamics are, I guess, sort of where you're just missing what it required here. You can't just watch wave patterns and know what physics is. You have to play with them and fiddle with them, and then you'll understand, oh, dripping water isn't a wave. You can get particle effects from wave phenomenon. You can get particle effects from wave phenomenon. Where? That's the whole contention here, retard. Sorry, idiot. I mean, fucknut. The whole contention here is that your silly projection of waves is wrong. So every time you think something's happening, because a wave is making a... No. It's a particle, shithead. It's a thing with momentum, shithead. It's a cannonball, retard. But not the other way around. So, dripping water into a puddle is not the other way around. That is not particles creating waves. No, because that's impossible, says Piro. It seems to me. So we're back to the seem word. He's used that one before too. Very scientific, the old it seems. So we'll just go with what it seems like. We won't do any reasoning. Yeah, it seems like it's really bad, you know, when 9/11 victims have their lives ruined. Yes, if that's all you look at. But it also seems that there's a whole bunch of other victims in the world who are innocently victimized by horrible things. And that there's no rational sense to giving one victim $1 billion and giving the other victim a fucky Yui. Yeah, that doesn't make any fucking sense. Giving the welfare whores all the working man's money doesn't make no sense, you see. 'Cause they didn't do any fucking work. I mean, except they work to be an asshole and a social pariah. I mean, if social pariahy is now going to be called a good job, well then, you might as well flush this all down a toilet. Alright. I think what makes waves seem discrete has to do with the type of physical material we are made of. Oh, so there's a special material we're made of that has something to do with waves in a puddle. I don't think so. And certainly light, when it flies billions and billions of years through the universe, you, the physicists of common gibberish, even they, they make up things like dark matter, but they haven't made up anything like dark ether yet. So until they come up with a medium that can transmit the wave, and some explanation for why the wave doesn't spread at all, because all waves spread by nature, if they're in a flexible material, they can't help it. It's the whole point of the wave, right? The wave is really, I went up, and the material stretched, and then it pushed me the fuck back down. That's the whole point of it, jackass. Idiot. Fucktard. Alright, anyway. I watched your discussion with Gary, blah, blah, blah. And, well, this part is kind of funny. I'll read this one. The other night in your hangout, in which you seem to concede that waves don't make sense in a single slit diffraction disturbance. You concede that swimming pool photos of waves were insufficient and contrived. Well, he conceded that he doesn't know anything about how those photos were made, and so keep using them as if they're evidence of something when, yes, the one photo he showed I had seen before. I looked it up and I found out it was made by 3 sources. So they jiggled the water with 3 different sources and then shoved that through a single slit. And they made diffraction pattern. Wow! Well, they made an interference pattern. Let's be specific. We're talking about the interference pattern. The light plus light equals dark. Where in the single slit wave function do you have the water doesn't move part? In the single slit. You don't. Alright. Nope. I didn't do that. Yeah, you did do that. I just acknowledged understanding what he was saying. Oh, he acknowledged that I was saying you're using fake evidence to make an argument, and that's bogus, jackass. Fact is, you can see diffraction in all waves. Okay, so now diffraction means converting a straight wave into a round wave. And so we're really, like I said, if that's what diffraction means, and that's what rainbows are, and that's what, for example, an electron moving through a electron gun means, then yes, you've broken the word diffraction, because now it means nothing. Because the same mechanisms do not create those changes in the path of the individual molecules. So yes, diffraction is basically a word for using for a change in path, but if you can use any mechanism to change the path, the word diffraction really doesn't mean anything. It has to be more specific than that or it's useless. But again, the point isn't that there is a change in the path. The point is that there's a specific change in the path which creates a void. It is the void that's being discussed here. The bar in the pattern, the null in the pattern. How is the null created in the single slit water experiment? Alright. Fact is, you can see diffraction in all waves. Again, if you're just going to say diffraction is the straight wave has friction as it goes through the slit, the friction bulges the wave because the middle part of the wave is still moving the same speed and the parts at the edge are not moving the same speed because they're being slowed down by the friction. So if you're going to call that diffraction, fine, but it's kind of a bullshit description of diffraction. It's a wave phenomena that always happens because that's one of the things waves do. Well, again, it's not one of the things light does, so you've never proven that light has any friction problem. So it's just not an adequate explanation for a scientist. Scientists should say, no, that's verbal diarrhea. Well, let's see, you deliberately switched swimming pool photos demonstrate something to Gary, but he immediately recognized them and explained to you why the photos don't prove what you thought they proved. Anyway, that's my memory of the conversation. Now Piro's response is, it's merely that I understood why he wants to see something else. So now he's converted the fact that I got him on crap evidence and converted that into an accusation that I'm wanting something, when what I want is an explanation that makes sense. And what I'm saying quite overtly, Waves that don't spread is idiotic. Photons going through two slits is nonsense. Seeing the photon makes the photon scared and it doesn't do the same thing is silly science. It's absolutely nonsensically silly, infantile, fucking goddamn fetuses wouldn't fall for that if you gave them a fair shot. And the whole idea of bent space is nonsense, and this whole gravity wave thing, all of this shit is shit. Dark matter, Huygens, this is bullshit. Absolute motherfucking bullshit. It's not that I want it to be something, I want it not to be bullshit. It's true, diffraction lines in water are fairly subtle. So there he goes. A completely you just can't make a more piece of shit statement. Now it looks benign. It's true that diffraction lines in water are fairly subtle. So he's like making some kind of concession that, yeah, maybe they're hard to see. No, the truth is what he's calling diffraction isn't hard to see at all. I mean, it's not subtle at all. Okay, straight line, waves go in. I make a slit. Okay, I'm drawing the picture. And bulged waves come out, circular waves. Is there something subtle about that? No. No subtlety fucking at all. But no, also there isn't? There isn't an interference area creating dark areas. Light plus light equals dark. There's no darky spots. Yeah. Nah. They're not there. They're not subtle. They're invisible. They don't fucking exist unless you make a whole bunch of jiggly waves here. If you jiggle these waves, well then yes, you'll jiggle these waves. So unless you cheat, you can't create those light plus light creates dark. So just a piece of shit as a statement. It's true the diffraction lines in water are fairly subtle. Like I said, he's calling this round shit, this is diffraction. The fact that it rounded because of friction on these sides. He's calling that subtle. Now you know that's not subtle. The round, when the drop hits the water, you know the roundness of the wave isn't subtle at all. You don't miss it. You see the rings. But what you don't see is somewhere where the light plus light equals dark. You don't see, the wave doesn't show up somewhere as not a wave. Yeah, the circle is a complete circle. It doesn't have breaks in it. Lying scum. Anyway, doesn't change if water waves have diffraction. Okay, so it's kind of subtle, but it doesn't change if water waves have diffraction. They do. So just completely ignore the argument. Never in the argument could it be confused that I was arguing that water waves don't bulge. Never in the argument. I drew the pictures over and over again. No one could confuse my argument to be saying that water waves don't go circular when they go through a slit. Nowhere could somebody think I was saying anything like that. What I was clearly saying is in a single slit they don't make a dead spot where there's no wave that ever hits. That's what I was saying. Fuck not, and you know it. So all of this is just a huge pile of canard. A philosopher term. This is canard, which equals shit, and which generically can be termed bullshit in conversation. Just for fun. Alright, I think I've done my job. Really is, you know, again, this is just so fucking stupid. I mean, you know, just playing fair with words. These concepts aren't all that complicated. And look at it. People won't admit they're biological organisms. They won't admit that the biological function is just a need machine that's basically intended to replicate. They won't admit that, yes, obviously, logically, we can understand the game we're a piece in, and we can understand the bigger picture of the game, and we can understand certain probabilities about the game and about its outcomes. And if we want the outcome to be good in the future, we actually have to make the good now. We have to put the good in the mixing bowl, or it won't get mixed into it, and it won't end up in the end product. If you want raisins in the raisin bread, you're going to have to put them in the bread mix. They're not going to magically poof into the bread mix. So if you want a better world, a world with raisins, you're going to actually have to pick up a box of raisins. You're going to have to buy them or manufacture them or grow them, and then you're going to have to pour them into the mixing bowl so in the future they can end up in the cupcakes or whatever you're making. This is just goddamn logic, for fuck's sake. It's putting simple facts together. Fact A, fact B, fact C. We see it in the world. It always happens that way. There's no God, there's no fucking unicorn, and waves don't make the universe work, you fucking cunts. Alright. Waves are byproducts, as are raisins. And they're byproducts of actions that aren't waves. Okay, so till next time.